prensa y bienvenidos a Victoria Records. Les quiero presentar al presidium que nos acompaña el día de hoy. Tenemos a Melissa Segura, secretaria de Cultura del Estado de Nuevo León. Victoria Cune, presidenta del patronato del Festival Internacional de Santa Lucía. Erika López, coordinadora ejecutiva del Fideicomiso del Festival Internacional Santa Lucía. Danny Elfman, compositor y voz de Jack Skellington en la película The Nightmare Before Christmas. Gabriela Vega, actriz de doblaje. Rubén Cerda, actor de doblaje. Randy Crenshaw, cantante. Y Greg Proops, actor y comediante. Ahora cedo la palabra a Melissa Segura para que nos dé unas palabras.
Gracias, muy buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por atender la convocatoria de los medios de comunicación. Es un honor para mí darle la bienvenida a Danny Elfman en nombre del gobernador del estado, Samuel García, de todo el equipo del gobierno del estado. Esperamos que sea una gran experiencia para él y para todo el estado, para toda la comunidad de Nuevo León y para todos los que nos visitan, que ya tenemos mucha información de que habrá mucha gente que llegue a la ciudad de Monterrey para disfrutar de este gran concierto. Y bueno, quiero iniciar felicitando a Victoria Cune, a todo el equipo del festival, Erika y todos, porque la verdad es que este es un hito, creo que todos somos conscientes de ello, es un hito importante en la historia del festival, marca sin duda el inicio de una nueva etapa, tener por primera vez una colaboración con Disney y hacerlo además a través de este gran concierto en una fecha tan significativa. Era uno de los objetivos que Victoria Cune se planteó cuando asumió la presidencia, internacionalizar y potenciar las posibilidades que este festival le daba a la comunidad, y en ese sentido estamos muy contentos de apoyar estos esfuerzos. Por supuesto, además, que esta actividad la encabece Danny Elfman, que es un icónico músico, productor, compositor de los más innovadores de nuestra época, y que su trabajo sin duda ha inspirado a muchísimas personas y conmueve a muchas personas, y para nosotros va a ser un honor que sea parte de la programación del festival, y realmente lo decimos así. También muy contentos porque se suma el talento de Nuevo León, se reconoce el talento de Nuevo León a través de la super orquesta que nos representan en esta ocasión, en este concierto. Así que bueno, para nosotros como gobierno del estado, como sector cultura, vamos a seguir trabajando muy de la mano con sociedad civil, con sector creativo, para potenciar este estado como un estado que se distinga a nivel nacional e internacional como un gran estado que pone la cultura en el centro de sus proyectos. Y bueno, de nueva cuenta, felicidades Victoria, felicidades al festival, mucho éxito en esta gran presentación. Obviamente reiteramos la invitación a toda la comunidad para que nos acompañe mañana en la Macroplaza a celebrar esta gran noche, a que no se pierdan los últimos días del festival. Ha sido una edición de veras que conmovedora, ustedes lo han visto, ha estado llenísimo todas las sedes de todo el festival en estos días, estamos muy contentos con el resultado. Y bueno, pues muchísimas gracias a todo el equipo también que nos visita para acompañar a Danny Elfman en esta superproducción. Muchas gracias y buenas tardes.
Gracias, Meli.
Que nos ayude con unas palabras.
Gracias a todas y todos por acompañarnos hoy. Y bueno, muchas gracias, Melissa, por todo tu apoyo. Sin Melissa no sería posible lograr esta edición tan compleja, tan por encima de todo lo que se había logrado antes del Festival Santa Lucía. Entonces sí quiero agradecer aquí enfrente de todas y todos a Meli, que ha sido la mejor aliada, mentora y amiga que me puede haber topado en el camino, porque como saben esto es totalmente nuevo para mí. Y bueno, ahorita ya empezaré a hablar en inglés. Danny, that's our Secretary of Culture of Nuevo León, of the state. So she's amazing. She's the reason why we get to do this type of huge festivals that are free for everyone. So we're very grateful for her. Gracias también obviamente a Danny Elfman, a Gabriela, a Rubén, a Randy y a Greg, que forman parte del elenco de la película The Nightmare Before Christmas, y también a la superorquesta que nos acompañará. Para nosotros era súper importante, yo no voy a leer, oigan, porque, ¿para qué? No. Para nosotros era súper importante integrar talento local emergente Y lo hemos estado haciendo no solo con Dani, sino también con Luca, también con Symphony, donde estamos incorporando pues orquestas nacionales, ¿no? Porque al final hay que darle una plataforma a todos los músicos emergentes. I'm telling them, Dani, that it's very important for us to also give a platform to up-and-coming musicians, and that's why we really wanted to do your show with the Super Orquesta, because it's a way to balance things out, where you have like this iconic, legendary, amazing artists like Dani, and then for all these guys and girls that are playing with him, it's like the opportunity of a lifetime. Es como la oportunidad de la vida para todas y todos estos músicos de la Superorquesta. Imagínense, ya tienen en su currículum que ya trabajaron con el maestro Danny Elfman. Entonces, para nosotras y nosotros en el festival es muy importante eso. Y bueno, para mí personalmente, creo que todas y todos los que ya me conocen, llevo años y años comprometida a crear una plataforma para artistas emergentes. Entonces, bueno, es encontrar ese balance de que colaboren, ¿no?, las dos partes. Y yo estoy muy emocionada. Conocí a Dani hace 7 años en Ciudad de México. Teníamos ahí algunos amigos en común, como Jonathan Davis de Korn, que es un gran cliente de nosotros. Él nos presentó, de hecho, y pues desde que lo conocí, para mí era un sueño de que ojalá algún día venga a Monterrey, ojalá algún día, y de pronto a principios de este año me encuentro presidiendo este gran festival y con la oportunidad de hacer la curaduría. Y en la primera junta que tuve con Meli, le dije, es que yo soy amante de Halloween, del Día de Muertos. El que me haya tocado a mí presidir un festival que pasa en estas fechas es el regalo más grande de mi vida, porque soy la más dark, gótica, halloweenesca que existe, me fascina. Entonces, para mí fue como, tenemos que crear la fiesta de Halloween más grande del mundo y traer a Dani en esa fecha, que es su fecha más cotizada y codiciada mundialmente. Todo el mundo lo quiere en Halloween, en todas partes del mundo. Que lo hayamos logrado, y nuestra primera vez que colaboramos con Disney, o sea, tener la asociación de marca de Festival Santa Lucía y Disney, que Disney nos aprobara la sede, negociar derechos, o sea, fue un proceso que el festival en 17 años nunca se había topado con un reto de este nivel, y lo logramos. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos un equipo liderado por Erika espectacular, que pueden con todo y más. Entonces yo estoy súper orgullosa de todo el equipo de Festival Santa Lucía. Y Dani, I'm telling them that when I met you 7 years ago through Jonathan Davis and everything in that concert, it was a dream for me that one day you would not only set foot in Victoria Records, but also like do a whole show here in Monterrey. And when at the beginning of this year I became president of the board of Festival Santa Lucía, I had a meeting with Melissa, and the first thing I told her was, please, Danny Elfman, that's my dream. I want Danny Elfman to come to Monterrey. And you are the headliner of this festival. You are like the main act of the festival. And there's 1,053 artists coming from 26 countries, but you are the star of the festival. And the media will agree with me. It's been an insane response on social media, on part of the press as well. Everyone is going crazy. There's people traveling from all over Mexico. No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. But it really is an honor for me, and also, I mean, personally, to have you here at Victoria Records is like an iconic moment for all the staff, the engineers, and for myself included. It's been a dream for many, many years. Yeah, so this is just, I'm like a bit speechless now, because this is just a lot. It's a dream come true. So quiero ahora que el elenco mejor hable para que les platiquen un poco. Y bueno, también quiero agradecer a Bárbara Herrera, que es la presidenta del patronato de la Escuela Superior de Música y Danza, porque ella nos ha apoyado muchísimo, y pues por encabezar esa gran orquesta. Obviamente Babi es una gran amiga, una mujer que admiro mucho, gran promotora cultural. Y bueno, ahora sí, le cedo la palabra. ¿Quieren empezar por allá? ¿Sí? ¿O quién sigue de hablar? Danny, do you want to say a few words first or after the cast? You tell me. Go for it.
I'm more than flattered. Thank you so much. I don't deserve that introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I looked forward over these years to returning to Mexico, because the last time we were here, it was such a great experience for me, and the audience was so great. I would told everybody back at home that it was as much for me as being at a rock concert as it was for being at an orchestra concert, because the audience had that kind of energy. Having done both many times, there was a lot of love, and I appreciated that. So this was a great opportunity for me, and I'm very happy to be here.
And on the most iconic day as well. Like, we're so grateful.
Yes, this is, for me, it always was the most special day of my life, was Halloween. And I was just one of those kids that I looked forward to that so much every year. So it was just funny that over the years, my band would be always doing a Halloween show. It's like, okay, I guess we're doing a Halloween show. I think because on my second album, we used the Dia de los Muertos imagery, and it created this link that never left us. And so we became this holiday special. And then I left the band, and then I started doing Elfman Burton, these concerts that we did in Mexico City. Once again, always on Halloween. And I realized that I'll never escape the Halloween association, and not that I really mind either. And then Nightmare Before Christmas, again, always, you know. So it's just funny, it's the holiday that I could never, I've always been associated with, and it doesn't bother me. And if I'm gonna have one holiday that I'll be associated with, I'll take Halloween.
It's the best one. It's the best one. And you're so iconic for it. And I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
¿Les traduzco un poco? ¿Sí?
Bueno, Dani nos platica que le digo que para nosotros fue un gran logro, ¿no? Que se lograra el 31 de octubre específicamente. Y dice que pues lleva toda una vida siendo asociado con Halloween, y que sí, obviamente lo tienen que asociar con cualquier día de fiestas, prefiere que sea Halloween, obviamente, y que le encanta que desde que vino a México la última vez, que la vibra de la audiencia es como si fuera un concierto de rock, más que este concierto con orquesta y todo, que ese es el vibe que le da como toda la audiencia mexicana. Entonces, que está súper emocionada de estar de regreso, y pues que esta es su fecha obviamente más importante y más icónica, el 31 de octubre. Y bueno, para nosotros obviamente qué honor que nos haya escogido como sede. ¿Quién quiere hablar ahora de los...?
Ladies first.
No.
Sally.
Sí. Yo primero.
Tú primero.
No soy muy buena para hablar, pero pues solo agradecer. Esto es una energía no de una persona, sino no de un país, sino de mucha gente trabajando, soñando, haciendo magia juntos, y eso es de lo que está lleno, de lo que va a estar lleno el día de mañana. Y bueno, con toda la energía además del justo el día de 31, me parece que pues estar aquí es simplemente mágico, formando parte de... Es que la palabra mágica es como muy navideña, pero no. Pues Halloweenescamente mágico va a ser este concierto. Y bueno, súper agradecida por formar parte de este gran grupo de gente creativa, y bueno.
Muchas gracias, y estamos invitando a todas y todos a venirse disfrazados. Everyone is coming in costume.
Yeah, excellent.
Like, all the promotion we've done is you gotta bring your costume.
Great. That's
Yeah,
how I
so
like it.
yeah, that's how it's gonna be. And I also want to add that he's won an Emmy, a Grammy. You've been nominated for an Oscar, right? Like, it's insane. Ha ganado un Grammy, un Emmy, ha estado nominado al Oscar. Es un super icono. Ok, continuemos por allá.
Pues muchas gracias a todos. De verdad, esta fecha es una fecha muy especial. Hace 31 años que se estrenó la película en México, que hicimos el doblaje, y el día de mañana es el día 31. Entonces creo yo que coinciden unos números muy especiales, y que este festival que se está dando en este momento, a veces los actores somos un poco como espirituales y cosas así, Pero creo yo que esto es algo muy especial de verdad, o sea, que coincidan estas fechas para que esté Danny Elfman y un equipo tan grande, tan nutrido artísticamente hablando, en una fecha que hace 31 años y se hizo esta película, se estrenó la película más bien hace 31 años. Hubo un previo primero que se estrenó como en privado y después ya se hizo público, pero también fue hace 31 años, en 1993. Y creo yo que esto representa algo muy importante, no nada más para el Estado de Nuevo León, sino para el país entero. De verdad que se puedan presentar este tipo de espectáculos y aparte que integren también al elenco mexicano, ¿no? De Gaby como Sally, yo como Oogie Boogie, y que esto sea tan especial para nuestro país, ¿no? Y yo quiero agradecer de verdad al comité, al Instituto de Cultura, el que nos hayan tomado en cuenta para un evento tan importante. Yo he trabajado muchos años con Disney, porque aparte soy la voz de Mickey Mouse, fui la voz de Mickey Mouse durante muchos años, entonces para mí es estar en casa nuevamente, ¿no? Y eso se siente muy reconfortante, llegar a casa con la familia. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Y sí, para nosotros era muy importante mezclar parte del elenco de español y de inglés, ¿no? Para que no toda la película entera fueran puras canciones en inglés. Entonces es algo también importante encontrar ese balance. Let's continue here.
Very honored to be here for this particular festival and to be doing Nightmare Before Christmas before a whole new audience. Very exciting for this festival. Greg and I joined Danny in working on the original Nightmare Before Christmas movie. So for us, it was a process of learning it on the job. And Danny was really wonderful. You recall, we basically were trying different voices on different characters as we went. So it was a learning experience for us all. And you would have songs that you wrote, I think probably before the whole script was written, right? Yeah.
The songs were first.
Yeah. And so we were trying voices in those songs early on and casting them, saying, okay, who would be right for this voice? Who would be,
That, when I wrote it, I just did a demo with my voice doing everything, except for Sally, of course, which I couldn't sing. But we never thought about how to do the voices. So what I did is I just pulled in what I thought was a very eclectic group of singers with different qualities, and I decided I would just go song by song and just choose everybody on the spot and work it out. So I didn't even write out specific parts for specific people. It was just like, let's try this. Oh, you do the vampire. Why don't you do this? Why don't you be the clown? Why don't you try this? And we do it. We go, okay, that works good. Let's just do it.
Yes.
It was very improvised.
Yeah.
And which is how I like to work.
So it was very much democracy in action.
Yes, very democratic.
So it's a thrill to be able, all these years later, to do it live and in concert. Because, for Greg and I, we did it all those years ago in 1993. And, and actually voice recording was done before the movie was released.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of years, but kind of thrilling to be able to do it in front of audiences.
The album came out before the movie.
Pardon me?
The voice recording was done before, the album.
Well, in animation, you have to have finished voices before you finish the animation, because the animation times to the voices. So first, I wrote all the songs. I made demos, we call demos, which the animator began, Henry and his crew, working with. And then about a year later, it was very much later, we went and finished all the voices, and then they were able to finish all of their final pieces to those. But it was a long process for me. Usually I'm on a film for 3 months, and here I was on a film for 2.5 years.
Yes.
And I realized that animation world is a whole different world. So I was very invested in this film. It was very big for me, and also I put so much of my own feelings into Jack that he became very personal for me. So there was a moment where I did all the demos, but Tim and I had never discussed who would sing Jack, and we finished it, and I'm so Tim, about Jack. I was going to say, if you cast somebody else, I'll kill them. But I didn't have to, because he said, yeah, it's good, you'll be Jack. I was like, okay.
I can't imagine Jack being anyone else.
Right.
Well, thank goodness Tim agreed, and it all worked out well.
That's incredible. And where did you record at the time? Was it in LA?
Yeah, everything was, no, actually, didn't we go up to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah, Berkeley,
Yeah.
because the Henry Selick and his studio was in Oakland, California, and I think we went up there to do the recordings. Yeah, now I remember.
So we did both in LA, and then later, went up.
Finishing it up.
Exactly.
Right.
That's amazing. Wow. I love hearing these stories.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I loved, one last thing, and I'll pass it to Greg. I loved working closely with Danny, but also with a lot of people who I only knew as singers, but we were doing character voices. So it was more like animation, character voiceover. And especially, there were a lot of Bay Area voiceover people that we got to meet on this who were doing specialty voices, like Greg. And so it was really thrilling for us.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you're all here reunited, and it's so beautiful.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I will translate a little bit.
Yes,
so.
Bueno, nos platicaban acá, Dani, que él se súper conectó con el personaje de Jack Skellington, que encontraba como muchas similitudes y que conectó muchísimo con ese personaje, pero que no había platicado tal cual con Tim Burton de quién iba a ser la voz de ese personaje. Pero que él decía, bueno, si alguien más la hace, mato a esa persona, la tengo que hacer yo. Entonces, que ya más para el final, que Tim le dice, ya tú vas a ser Jack, no te preocupes, tú vas a ser Jack. Y él de que no, qué bueno. Entonces, I love that you had like this connection with Jack. I love it.
Yeah, when at that very moment when I was writing Jack, and Tim was explaining Jack's character and how he wanted something else, and he was the king of Halloween Town, but he was tired. I was exactly that way with a rock band I was with for 17 years, and I couldn't get out, and I very much wanted to get out, and the feeling was the same. I was the lead singer and the songwriter, so it was my kingdom, very much like Jack, but like Jack, I was desperate for something else and didn't know how. And so as Tim's explaining Jack's character to me, I'm going, yes, I understand. And so I just kind of projected myself into those lyrics.
Yeah.
Sí, dice que él estuvo en una banda de rock por 17 años, en la que era el compositor y el cantante, y ya quería como salirse y escaparse de ese ciclo en el que estaba un poco como pues ciclado, ¿no? Dentro de esta banda de rock. Y que cuando Tim Burton le explica los sentimientos y todo lo que representaba Jack, que él se sentía súper identificado, porque pues él también está en una etapa donde quería escapar. Y esta era como su forma de escapar, ¿no? Y era como así como Jack es el king de este Halloween Town y todo, pues para él era igual en esta como banda de rock, que era como su kingdom o su reino, ¿no? Y que se sintió súper identificado. Y I love hearing these stories. I'm like so excited right now.
And I tried to inject that feeling of super excitement to very serious, and that up and down thing, which I also knew very well, having created many giant messes for myself that I had to try to get out of, that I felt that Jack should be that way also. Like very excited, then very sad or intense that he just goes in all directions.
Yeah.
So it was so fun to put that into the character.
Did you expect it to become this huge when you were doing it? Like, did you know it was gonna become this, like, classic, enormous, bigger than life thing?
Well, no, I mean, first off, nobody understood it when it came out. Disney didn't know what it was. It's like, this is not The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult to understand. And when it came out, there was much misunderstanding. I did so much press at the time, and every journalist would say, it's too scary for children, right? And I'd go, no, it's not. They go, oh, we hear it's too scary for children. It's not. We hear Santa Claus gets tortured. And I go, no, he's not tortured, he's inconvenienced. And then it's okay, he's not even upset, it's okay. Nobody gets, but there was this perception.
Yes.
And that perception made it very difficult when it opened, people to know what it was. And it took a decade for the understanding of the film to kind of blossom, which is very, very rare in Hollywood, for a film to grow after its release. There's only been a few films that I can think of. And so at first I thought, oh, nobody understands this. And then slowly, over a decade, it was this feeling that people do understand it and they're still attracted to it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, about 10 years or so later, I was in Tokyo with Tim Burton for the opening of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And we went to all the toy stores together, and Jack and Sally, dolls, toys, everywhere. And I think that's where Tim was like, this hasn't gone away. Look at all this interest in Tokyo. And it was after that, came back, Disney, I think, agreed. Fortunately, Disney, more than most studios, have a very long perspective on things. And I think most studios would have gone, nah, it's over, finished, goodbye. But Disney was smart, and they said, there's something here, and we're gonna go into it again. And I'm so grateful that they had the long-sightedness to do that and reopen the film and put energy into it. So it made me so happy. And then nothing was more surprising to me than being asked to perform it live. And I'll never forget, they said, well, where are we going to go? And they said, the Hollywood Bowl. And I said, no, I'm thinking a 1,200 seat theater, something small. And they said, no, the Hollywood Bowl. And I was like, it's impossible, nobody knows, does anybody know this thing? And I couldn't believe it, walking out and the Hollywood Bowl was filled. And my mind was absolutely blown. I just couldn't believe that so many people knew this piece and were coming to hear it live. It was just an incredible gift and a blessing for me to have that many years later become a reality. I could not have imagined anything further. I could have imagined sitting in a room with a few hundred people performing it, but not that.
I saw you at Coachella as well.
Yeah, that's
And
another
that
story.
was iconic. You're such a multidisciplinary artist. I love it. That was
Thank
an
you.
incredible moment.
Well, that was yet another door opening. I hate to say thanks to lockdown, but we locked down, and when you're a composer, you lock down, all the films canceled, all the schedules, and it's like, I'll start writing songs again. And that opened up this whole new thing, which is what I'm doing back home this Saturday at the Hollywood Bowl, is that rock show.
It's incredible. I love it.
Sí, yo le preguntaba que si él dimensionaba lo enorme y lo gigante que se iba a convertir The Nightmare Before Christmas cuando estaban apenas creándola. Y me dice que no, porque aparte Disney en ese momento pues estaba acostumbrada a películas tipo La Sirenita, todo este tipo de películas, y esto era algo completamente nuevo, diferente. La gente decía, es que torturan a Santa Claus, esto, lo otro en la película, de que cómo eso va a funcionar dentro del universo de Disney, de niñas y niños y todo. Y luego fue algo que fue como la gente lo fue encontrando poco a poco. Disney no se dio por vencido, dice que agradece a Disney por no haberse dado por vencido, porque pues muchos otros estudios de producción de cine es como, no funcionó el primer día, bueno, ya lo que sigue, ¿no? Y que acá siguieron como creyendo mucho en The Nightmare Before Christmas, y luego de repente se volvió pues este mundo icónico, ¿no? Ya crecido, digo, al punto que aquí estamos, ¿no? It's your turn.
Finally.
I'm so sorry.
It's a total thrill.
Savor every moment.
Right, it's fantastic to be here in Mexico. 10 years ago when they started doing it again live, they invited me to do it, and I couldn't have been more chuffed. And they made me audition to do all the roles that I did again in the movie. And I wanted to remind them that I was in the goddamn movie. And but so we did it again, and over the 10 years we've been to Tokyo, Dublin, London, Glasgow, where am I forgetting? New York City, Hollywood, and now Mexico. And we as a cast have become more of a family. It's really a family affair. Lots of us bring our families with us. And like Danny was saying, when the picture opened, it wasn't a big smash because I think it confused people. Disney hadn't put anything out that dark before. Maybe like since, Snow White or whatever, and so
Or weird.
right? It was gothy, and
They didn't put it out on their label. They put it out on Touchstone.
right. It was on a different Disney label because they were afraid they would scare children to death or whatever, which of course was the idea. And then it gained steam so much later. Like Danny said, it took years and years for it to gain steam, and then it became, I think, a cult classic, which people call it. But now I think it's even more than a cult classic. I think it's just an American holiday classic because it serves for Halloween and it serves for Christmas as well, because we do it both at Christmas time and at Halloween time. And the big argument every year in the States is it a Halloween movie or is it a Christmas movie? And of course it's a Halloween movie. But
But it's also Christmas.
yeah, it's all for Christmas. It's both.
But it's a
And
Halloween movie.
It's
But
been-
also Christmas.
I think that the part that is so moving to me is to be in something that, one, is so exciting, to be in front of a symphony orchestra and play around the world. I'm a comedian, yo soy buffone, and I'm a clown, and I got put in this show by Danny because I'm not even a professional singer really, and I don't read music or anything like that, which I think you'll see when you go to the concert. He put me and another comedian named Debbie Durston, because we have funny voices, and I think it gave a texture to the movie and another level.
Interesting voices, not
Interesting.
funny
That's right.
voices.
Interesting.
Unique voice.
Evocative.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a complete thrill. I got a cassette tape. This was a long time ago when we did this picture. He gave me a cassette tape. This is when music was powered by steam. Once upon a time, and I memorized the cassette, and it was the first song, Halloween, and I did all these different monster voices, and Danny was there. I went in to audition for Danny, and in a room, just me singing to Danny, and I think I was the first one up in San Francisco, which is where I'm from. And then when we got it, I couldn't have been more thrilled. But what I was going to say was, I think it's become a family thing. Certainly everywhere we go, and now that you're telling me everyone's going to come in costume here in Mexico and whatnot, when we play in London, when we play in Los Angeles, Glasgow, whatnot, families come. And it has a heavy Latino following in Los Angeles. It's a very, what we call Mexigoth movie as well. That's been acknowledged. And I think it's a night out that's so much fun. There's candy and all the singing and everything. And I think the songs resonate with people because the songs are so much about loss and emotion and what your dreams are about and how your dreams fall apart and all that. And I think that's really the heart of the movie and why it became so powerful for people and such an emotional locus.
And I should add, there was nothing more satisfying after being told 1,000 times when it came out that not for kids, not for kids, not for kids, that as we perform it live, as Greg was just saying, everybody brings their kids. And people send me videos constantly on Instagram of their kids singing songs. And it makes me so happy to see generation and a new generation and a new generation of kids. And every time I go, yes, I knew it was for kids. And Tim knew it was for kids. But we took a while to convince the world that it was for kids. And the kids are finally the ones speaking out for themselves, going, yes, we're not scared of this.
Was I supposed to carry on?
You want to?
No, well,
We would love to hear more.
All right.
So when we were making it, Danny, like I said, I think a lot of the songs were written sort of right then and there and on the fly, and we were making changes to the music, as I recall, in the studio and whatnot. And Henry, the director, would say, we'd come in one day and he'd go like, I want you to do The Devil Come Back Tomorrow with a voice for it. So it was that organic, which I don't think you'd ever do now in a studio production. I can't imagine them having that kind of leeway and sort of familial.
Improvisational
Right.
songs.
Yeah,
We actually winged it, which is something that I do. I'm an improviser, but
Well, and that's all I've ever done.
Right.
Because, you know, coming from a band
There you
thing,
go.
you're improvising everything all the time.
Yeah.
So when Tim came to me with the idea, he's like, how do we start a musical? Well, I didn't know, and he didn't know. So we just went right back to like, well, let's just do what we do, improvise.
yeah.
And every song was written in order,
Yeah.
because that's how much of the story he told me. You know, he showed me the pictures and he told me about the characters, but then let's just talk about this is Halloween. And he described it, and I'd go and write a song. And then I'd come back and play it for him, and he'd go, now, Jack's wandering in the graveyard, and he's got Zero with him, and he'd tell me the next part. Like as if you're telling the story to a kid at night, like a bedtime story. And he'd tell me the next part of the story. He'd go, okay, got it. And I'd go write a song, and 3 days later, he'd come back, and I'd play, and then he goes, okay, now, and he just told me one little bit at a time. We didn't even know how many songs we were going to try to write. There was no number of songs. We were just like, let's just tell as much of the story as seems like we should in song. And then we ended up with 10 songs. It's like, oh, wow, we've got 10 songs. But there was no intention to create 10 songs. Could have been 5, it could have been 7. We were improvising. And then when it came down to the performance, I did what I always do, which is put people in the room and improvise. That's what you do with a band.
Yeah.
You know, when I'd go in with a song from my band, I just kind of play the song and they'd all learn it and we'd all do it that way. And so it was exactly the same thing. Like, okay, we don't know what we're doing. Just here, you guys, here, we're going to start and play it. And let's just try this, and this. And so for me, it was doing what I always do. And I didn't know till later that was unusual. You're not supposed to work that way. And it's like, oops, sorry.
It's so rare. Like, and now impossible. Like, no one.
Now it'd be impossible. But also, you know, Disney very much left us alone. It was really just Tim and I in a kitchen, literally. The funny part of the story is the kitchen happened to be the writer, Caroline Thompson, who was my girlfriend at the time. And I was living at her house because my house was being renovated. So it was in Burbank. Tim lived there. I'm living there, and Caroline's living there. So I'm doing song after song, and Caroline's going, hello, you need a script. I'm a writer. And you go, okay. Finally, we finished the last song, and it's like, Tim's going, you know, I think we need a script. And Caroline's like,
I've been here all along.
I know every song. I've been hearing him write every note of every song in the other room. Which I was just in a little room off to the side of her living room, writing everything. And Tim said, okay, yeah. And so Caroline became the writer. But at that point, she was like, oh, you know, it's like, what took you so long? So it really was this little family. It was like me, Tim, and Caroline in the kitchen of Caroline's house, creating everything.
That's destiny. That's like destiny.
It was so simple and so, you know, just, I don't know how else to
So
explain
pure.
it. Yeah,
So
very,
pure.
very, very
Yeah.
pure and simple and
Very
quick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, and let me translate a little bit.
All right.
Sorry.
No. It's
Nos cuenta, es que tienen que entender que ahorita, en estas épocas, al hacer cualquier película, todo te dan demasiadas instrucciones, ¿no? De tienen que ser tantas canciones, tiene que durar tanto cada una, así. O sea, es muy raro que algo pase de una forma tan pura y tan orgánica como él nos está platicando, que Tim llegaba y le contaba un pedacito de la historia nada más, así de que ahora pasa esto, haz la canción. Hacía la canción, se la traía y le decía, ok, ahora ya te voy a contar la siguiente parte de la historia. Ahora pasa esto, hacía la canción, regresaba. Ok, ahora ya te voy a contar la siguiente parte de la historia. Y se la fue dando así como por secciones, poco a poco. Y dice que en ese momento él estaba viviendo en casa de su novia, Caroline, y estaban todos en Burbank, California. Ahí también estaba Tim. Entonces, pues todos los días estaban juntándose ahí en su casa. Y ella, escritora, pero todavía no la hacían parte de la película. Y ella así como, yo soy escritora, necesitan un script. Entonces empezaron primero a hacer la música, ya que habían acabado todas las canciones, fue como que hay que decirle a Caroline de que ella escribió toda la película, ¿no? Entonces terminaron todos, eran como una familia, estaban todos en esta casa en Burbank colaborando y pues sí, literal su novia en ese momento escribió la película y es algo súper bonito porque como lo platica también es que luego cuando ya entraron al estudio a empezar a crear estas voces y todo, les daba demasiada libertad creativa a los personajes de improvisar. Eso también es súper raro, súper raro. Y ellos tuvieron como muchísima libertad de improvisar, al igual que él. Entonces es una película que realmente fue creada de una forma muy pura, que yo siento que ahorita en el arte, en el cine, todo es muy estratégico. Y esto fue algo muy puro y creo que por eso ha trascendido, ¿no? A través de los años.
Oh, are there any questions?
¿Tienen preguntas? Todo el mundo. Everyone is going to have questions.
What did you expect about the audience in Monterrey and la super orquesta?
What do you expect?
Well, I mean, I expect great energy because Monterrey or Mexico City, it's still Mexico. And to me, that's what Mexico has in great quantities is like energy. And I'm expecting that. And I'm thrilled to be on stage with the original voices of Sally and Oogie Boogie. I think to me, when I found out, I was so happy that they were joining us. So it's a thrill to be here. And with this young orchestra that I rehearsed with last night, and they were so great and so enthusiastic. And I love seeing that energy from young musicians. It just makes me very happy. They're trying really hard and they really put their heart in it. And I've played orchestras all over the world because I've done a dozen classical pieces. And I know what it's like to be with an orchestra that's like, yeah, here we go, here's another one. You know, we'll play the parts, but when's our break?
Yes.
Is all they're thinking. I know what that's like. And it's nice to play with an orchestra like this that feels like they want to be there and they're enjoying the work and they're giving back energy. So it's a very wonderful thing for me.
Tim Burton's movies cannot be conceived in cultural imaginary without Danny Elfman. Your music is world building. Every opening song, you feel like you are on a journey into this specific world. The syncopation, the ethereal violins, and chords progression make me realize you don't follow the usual epic thematic rhythms, and I love that. Did you find this inspiration from listening to classical music, or in some way this is how those sci-fi and horror movies sounded in your head when you were just a kid?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated question because certainly the horror I grew up with had an impact on me, and I was very influenced very young by a composer named Bernard Herrmann, who wrote many scores for science fiction movies that I saw, and as well as Alfred Hitchcock movies, which he was most favorite. But when I was only 12 years old or so, I saw a science fiction movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still, and the music really got to me. And it's the first time in my life I was touched by film music, and I saw his name. And so then every time I would see his name after that, I would go, oh, there's something special. And I became aware that you can give something special to a movie with the music that takes it one notch into a slightly different world. But then I got into classical music very late, and it's hard to say. My influences are so mixed up. When I sat down with Tim to start writing songs for Nightmare Before Christmas, we only had one agreement, that we did not want it to sound like a Broadway musical. Or even a Disney musical.
Yeah.
We wanted it to sound like something else. So I tried to write all the songs in a style that was both modern but old at the same time. It could have been written in the 90s, but it could have been written in the 1920s or the 1930s. That big influence would be Kurt Weill, the German composer who wrote a Three-Penny Opera. So Sally's Song, for example, very much inspired by the Three-Penny Opera, and that was very much a part of my soul. But I also started out in a musical theatrical troupe doing old jazz, and so Oogie Boogie Song, right from Cab Calloway, because I used to perform Cab Calloway live on stage for 7 years, and that's how I began performing. So when it was time to write the Oogie Boogie Song, I was going to write, I want to write something that Cab Calloway might have sung.
And I love the big band.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. And so these influences all came back to me. The Cab, old jazz, the Kurt Weill Three-Penny Opera, the monster music, the Bernard Herrmann, all of it was present. But the only thing we knew is cannot sound like a Broadway musical. Yes.
I think you're safe.
You said that you traveled to Tokyo, and then you were so impressed about how the Nightmare Before Christmas still remains. What do you think that has been the factor of that, of still being remaining and so loved by new generations?
You know, one could never say what connects to people on a heart level, other than I've done maybe 120 films in my life, and of them, probably 70% of them either were flops or didn't do very well, but did okay. If there was any one film I worked on that I could have wished for a continuation, a second life, it would be Nightmare Before Christmas, and that wish happened. And so, but I can't tell you why, other than something connects. Whoever knows why, something connects on a level that's hard to explain. Only that I'm glad that it did.
I mean, near the Halloween night here in Monterrey, there's always like a debate that we should celebrate Halloween or the Day of the Dead, el Día de los Muertos.
But why not both? I mean, literally, I met my girlfriend, Caroline Thompson, the writer. Me and Tim and Caroline and a writer friend, we were all going to Guadalajara for a Day of the Dead. Just to see it finally. And then the writer had to drop out, and then Tim got sick and he couldn't go. So now it was just me and Caroline. We didn't know each other that well, going to Guadalajara for a Day of the Dead. And we fell in love. So it was a good experience. But I've always loved both. And I don't think that there's a competition. Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos has a great history and it has a cultural significance that's deep and wonderful. And 7 years ago, seeing the parade in Mexico City was one of the great experiences of my life. Halloween, of course, has a different thing, and it's more about taking other identities in kids, but they're both wonderful, and they both have, I think one is connected to the other on a certain level, because it's still about spirits and ghosts and skeletons. There's definitely this connection that they're different, but they are very compatible. So I don't think you have to choose.
And when it comes to translate this film to the live, what are some of the challenges?
I'm sorry, the challenges of creating?
Yeah, when you have to translate this film to an orchestra in live, what are some of the challenges?
Oh, to the orchestra. Well, I mean, it's very difficult. We weren't even sure it was possible because it has to synchronize. And many concerts, the conductor that I frequently worked with, John Malchari at the Hollywood Bowl, has done 10 years of live to sync concerts. But in most musicals, the songs just happen here, and then 10 minutes later, and then 10 minutes later. And in Nightmare Before Christmas, the music's going all the time, and the songs are constant. So sometimes there's not even time to turn the page of music, going from one to the other. They're just one, boom, boom, boom. So at first we thought, this is impossible, but then we tried it, and we go, no, it's hard, but it's possible. But it's very, very challenging because sometimes the break between one piece and the next one is 2 seconds and instead of several minutes. And they really, really have to be focused and sharp. And it's hard for me too. I'm trying to like count bars. I'm looking at a monitor and it'll say bar 87, bar 88, and I come in at beat 4 of bar 89. It's like, oh my God, I've never had to do that. But it just takes a lot of focus that one wouldn't have to do for most concerts.
Sir, talking about challenge, what challenge will be here in this scenario in Monterrey?
Well, the challenge in this scenario is the challenge of every orchestra everywhere playing it. It's just very, very difficult. I don't think there's anything different about the challenge here than anywhere in the world, other than we have an enthusiastic young orchestra and not like a older orchestra that's bored. So, to me, that's not a challenge, that's a plus.
You are in the group with great Hollywood composers as John Williams, Hans Zimmer, and Morricone. Do you still have some things in your career that you want to do? What more do you ask for the universe?
That's very
Wow.
like existential.
Yeah, that's a big question. I like mixing things up. So I'm very happy, for example, one of my happy moments was being in Vienna, Austria, for the premiere of my cello concerto with the wonderful cellist Gautier Capuçon. And 1 week later, being on stage with electric guitar doing Coachella. I love that contrast. It's great for me that tomorrow night, I'll be doing Nightmare Before Christmas with this wonderful young orchestra and this very talented cast. And then 2 nights later, I'll be doing rock and roll again on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, which, you know, that show is enhanced from the Coachella show. It's called From Boingo to Batman to Big Mess and Beyond, and there's a little bit of everything, my whole life mashed together. But at the same time, I love doing the next classical commission. So I've already written my next classical piece, and I'm looking forward to that getting recorded. So for me, the perfection is mixing it all up. The reason I became a film composer and stopped my band is because when you're in a band, you're playing the same music every night. And I have a hard time. I never could adjust to that. When I see the Rolling Stones playing still after about 50 years, oh my God, I couldn't barely handle 6 weeks of touring. But as a film composer, I could keep changing. I go from a dark film to a silly film to an action film to a little film to a $200 million film, and it's always mixing it up, and that appeals to me. But now having 3 careers appeals even more. The classical career, which is very demanding, this live performing career with the orchestras doing these film works, Tim Burton music, Nightmare Before Christmas, and now being back with a rock band that I love very much again. I don't know what else I could ask for at the moment. Maybe an astronaut?
Yes.
Danny, I heard that you didn't used to celebrate Christmas when you were a kid. So I want to ask you, how does that affected you in playing the character, for good or for bad?
Well, I mean, Christmas was a hard time for me growing up because I grew up Jewish in a community that had no Jewish kids in it. So I was lonely every Christmas. All of my friends were celebrating with their parents and their families, and I was just sitting at home like that. So it became a sad time for me. I imagined all my friends having these wonderful celebrations with their families, and I was just sad. So I started a long period of Halloween was the happy time, and followed by Christmas, which was this sad time, lonely time. So, but I learned to enjoy Christmas through my children, because then I had my 2 girls, and the pleasure of decorating the tree and having the presents and the perfect system of presents left overnight, and the enthusiasm of like waking up in the morning, their faces in the morning. I went from feeling really depressed to going, this is the best ever. Because through my children, I learned to really love the holiday. But it took a while, and it took my children to bring me into the spirit of Christmas and just the pure joy of the holiday. So, you know, it's now as an adult, I've always really loved it. And my dear father, who's no longer with us, used to be Santa every year. He would disappear and come back with the beard and the hat. And my daughters would go, "That's Grandpa." And I go, "No, that's Santa."
Mr. Arma, two questions. Esta película es un clásico. Estas canciones ya son como villancicos de Halloween. Y dos, Tim Burton ya nos trajo Beetlejuice. ¿Nos traerá Jack de vuelta?
He's asking that Tim Burton already brought us like Beetlejuice back. Is he bringing Jack back, like in a new, updated version?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, but I never know what's going on in Tim Burton's mind. I mean, I've only been working with him for 38 years, and I've only done 17 or 18 films with him. I still have no idea what he's thinking moment to moment. So he's a mind and a universe unto itself.
Siguiente. Ustedes dos.
Oigan, perdón, última pregunta nada más por tiempo, ya nos tenemos que ir.
Sí. Comentó que desde siempre usted ha sido fan de Halloween.
Sí.
Desde que vio la película, ¿usted imaginó estar con personajes tan importantes?
Wow, this is like an amazing question. So, The Nightmare Before Christmas was like the soundtrack to my life during high school. Like for many high schoolers, right? When we're all hormonal and emotional, emo. That was a soundtrack to my life. So I feel like ever since I met Danny, I met him 7 years ago during the Mexico City show. For me, it was like, I hope one day, I kind of manifested it, I felt. Like, I hope one day he can be in Monterrey, in the studios, we should do something together. And then, yeah, that's how it happened. First year as president, it was the first thing I asked for. It was the one thing I wanted. I was like, I don't care if the festival is one day long. We're bringing Danny Elfman somehow.
But thank you for saying that. It means so much to me. I hear that frequently, and it always gets me emotional to hear that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Una más.
Here, Danny, I have a question. You work for the music for the movie Beetlejuice. Tell us your experience, please.
That was just pleasure. You know, being able to come back after 33 years or however many years it was just crazy. And being able to visit that music, which I loved writing. And all of Tim's early films, you know, I was always sad when it was over because I'll never be able to do this music again. And so I loved writing Pee-wee and Beetlejuice and Batman and The Nightmare and all of these films. So to be able to do it again was just like a celebration for me.
What's your favorite? Batman, Beetlejuice?
I don't have a favorite, but the one that I'm most emotionally connected to would be Nightmare, simply because of my personal connection to it. One last question?
Thank you so much.
No? Okay.
One more.
One more.
One more?
Yeah.
Okay. One more.
Si alguna vez has sido parte de algún otro evento cultural y cómo te hace sentir ser parte del festival, que es un evento para todos los neolonenses.
She's saying that if you had ever been a part of a festival that was like more cultural, more like, because this is a cultural multidisciplinary festival that's like film, theater, dance, opera, and yeah, how do you feel about the fact that it's like free for everyone?
Well, first off, the fact that this festival is happening and that it's free for everyone this is how life should be everywhere. You know, this is how we don't have that in America, and I wish we did have more of this type of interaction, cultural festivals. It's to your credit that you have what the whole world should have, but doesn't. So I'm very happy to be a part of cultural festivals, however I can be involved. I've only had a few. Sometimes it's a classical work, sometimes it's a film piece. Here it's Nightmare Before Christmas. But this type of festival is what, to me, life should be filled with moments like this, where everybody can come together and celebrate all these different mediums. So I thank you for noticing that, and I'm honored to be part of it.
Thank you so much. Gracias a todas y todos.